There's been some news recently that Japanese manga are outselling American comics by quite a lot. In this video, I'll cover why I think this happened. Please like and subscribe for more content related to Japan and the Japanese language. The fact that Japanese manga have outsold American comics might not come as a surprise to many, as Japan has a huge market for stories that they produce themselves. The surprise is that now Japanese manga are outselling American comics even in the US. Apparently, Kimetsu no Yaiba or Demon Slayer outsold the whole American comic market recently. Although I've always preferred manga, I remember American comics being better than they are now. While the quality of Japanese manga might have stayed the same, there's more interest in manga now, which allows for more titles to be translated and experienced by Western audiences. As someone who has read a fair bit of manga, I'm not surprised by this increase in popularity. I've always thought manga would reach a wider audience than American comics eventually. Here are some reasons why I think this change has come by in recent years, and why I think Japanese manga are better than American comics. Number 1. There's too much politics in American comics. Most people read manga or comics to escape reality or engage with a different world. Or they want to experience something or learn to see something in a new light. What they don't want is to be lectured. When people create stories based on pushing a narrative, then that narrative can easily take the center stage. This means that the story will suffer. This is a bit like educational games. Games that make you learn math are never as fun as games made to be fun and enjoyable. The same goes for stories. If you have an ideology that you want to imprint on others, then that doesn't necessarily make for a great or interesting premise. Number 2. There are too many superhero comics. While American comics are usually centered around superheroes, Japanese manga can be about anything. It can be about martial arts, housewives, about a former yakuza who is a stay-at-home husband, about historical figures like Oda Nobunaga, the Buddha, or Vikings as in Vinland Saga. It can be about school life, work life, it can be science fiction, fantasy, or anything else, including superheroes. Japanese manga are a lot more diverse, and therefore it's easier to find manga that appeal to you. Number 3. Japanese manga are more visually appealing. While some people might think that manga and anime characters look alike, nothing could be further from the truth. This is probably due to the type of manga and anime that became major properties in Western countries early on. For example, this is a manga, and so is this, and this, and this. I find the art style in manga to be more varied and beautiful. It's more visually appealing than the standard line art and basic coloring found in most American comics. This doesn't mean that Japanese manga don't use line art, or that American comics can't look beautiful, but in general the average Japanese manga looks better in my opinion. Many American comics have also moved away from any idealized version of people, meaning that many, especially newer characters, don't really have that much of a visual appeal. This doesn't mean that anything that isn't perfect isn't beautiful, of course. So-called flaws are usually what creates visual interest, but having an ideal to look up to also means having something to strive for. I can look at the Renaissance painting and be struck with awe, even if I can't replicate it myself. I also don't need characters to look like me to be able to like them. If the character design picks out some essence of an ideal and amplifies it, then I don't think that's bad. Instead, it's part of what makes the character appealing. Number 4. Japanese manga creators are more productive. Well, since more Japanese manga are being produced, you get more variety, and that variety will also lead to quality. There are a lot of bad manga out there, but there's also a filtering system in place that allows you to sort out the worst ones. After manga has been published, it's not that hard to find reviews and to figure out what other people like. The more you read, the more you'll start to figure out your tastes, and that will make it easier to find other work as well. Many authors write several different series, meaning that if you like one series by a certain mangaka, then you most likely will enjoy the others as well. Number 5. Japanese manga are available in Japanese. This might sound like a strange point to people who don't speak or who don't want to learn Japanese, but having a visual medium to help you get started reading in the target language can be a huge help. Learners of French and English also have this benefit, but learners of Japanese have access to a lot more variety, and I would also argue quality. Are there great American comics? Of course, but the quality hasn't really been there in recent years in my opinion. Japan, on the other hand, shows no signs of slowing down, which is a fact that the world seems to be waking up to. If you want to read Japanese comics for free, watch this video next. Like and subscribe for more. Do it!